The world of Biomutant is largely unknown, but with about a month left before the launch, the pieces are finally starting to come together for this open-world RPG. Hey there friends, it's Codiak here, one half of the team behind Legacy Gaming, and today we're diving into a brand new trailer and breaking down some of the exciting new scenes. So to kick this off, we get a gorgeous shot of the world tree. We actually see two of the four branching roots clearly in this image. The world tree is at the center of the conflict in the game, and the roots lead to four World Eater bosses. In the next scene, we get our first look at some magma or molten-inspired elements in the heat biome. We know that heat is an extreme condition within the game that we'll have to deal with, but we haven't seen volcanic elements up until this point. Next, we see a character jimmying a lock and breaking into some abandoned facility in a toxic zone. Now, I'm wondering if this is a cutscene or something happening in the game. One thing to note about the new trailer is that everything was captured within the game. Nothing CGI'd, nothing artificial, and that is impressive. What happens in the next scene was the first moment that my interest was really piqued. A character using some sort of magical suitcase to glide across the map. Now we know that there is a wingsuit in the game, but this suitcase doesn't actually lose any altitude while in flight. Without any UI elements, it's hard to tell how long a player can sustain this flight, but it's definitely something worth talking about. After that, we get a great sequence of shots leading our main character into one of the faction zones. We know that there are 6 factions within the game all vying for power, but this is the first time we're actually seeing gameplay of the character walking amongst different faction members. Now changing gears, the next scene takes us into the open world. We see some sort of destroyed bell tower covered in colorful graffiti, but we also get a look at one of the more traditional mounts in the game. Now it's definitely not a horse, but something we'll be able to possibly tame or acquire at some point during our adventures. We also see something in the background that looks like a bomb, which could be interesting. Now speaking of colorful, check out this character and his food cart. Clearly someone we'll be able to interact with and most likely buy and sell to. While the game is serious, there's also this less than subtle quirkiness that runs throughout the game. Now I don't know how that will all balance out, but I just thought it was worth mentioning. In the next scene, we see a docked airship, and I'm just obsessed with the concept of the airship. It's something we've seen in pretty much every trailer, and I'm starting to think this will be one of the main ways we get around the world. It's also really neat to see something like this docked. It's just interesting, thinking about riding around on a giant airship and then just dropping the anchor anytime we want to go explore. The village beneath the airship is also really interesting. It looks to be a smaller landmark, one of the locations we might just stumble across for a side quest for some scavenging. The next thing that really piqued my interest was a series of snowy scenes. Now correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is the first time we've seen snow scenes this dynamic, and it's definitely a contrast from some of the other biomes we've seen in the game. Now given the nature of Biomutant, I'm wondering if this is the result of some nuclear accident. We see power lines in the back of the second shot, so it got me thinking. We also get a taste of another mount here, and I'm not gonna lie, it looks a little ridiculous. After that, we get a few shots of a crumbled urban area, and another short clip of that mech walker we've seen before. It's a cool vehicle, and it's always great to get another taste of what those vehicles will look like in the game. In the very next scene, I think we can all but confirm a true day-night cycle within the game. It's pretty clear to me that that's what the developers are trying to show off here. We also see an airship, again, which leads me to believe, yes, those are important. Continuing with our urban footage here, if you look closely, you'll see a character zip-lining across the top of some buildings. I'm not quite sure we've seen that from the character's perspective yet, but it does confirm another way of getting around within the game. Almost doubling down on this idea, we get a series of travel shots next. Now, it seems obvious to me that travel and transportation is a huge component of this game, and whether you're using a wingsuit, or your airship, or some other contraption, getting around is a big deal. This could mean that players will have to travel everywhere without the crutch of a fast travel system. We don't know. I can imagine from the developer's perspective that they want to give players as many options as possible without cutting corners and allowing people to just simply jump from point A to point B. We actually see a few more travel shots later on in the trailer that I bumped up here because it's just so obvious that the developers are really invested in the idea of mobility in a lot of different forms and fashions. We get another incredible shot of that mechanical hand mount in action, which just looks incredible, as well as a shot of a personal helicopter. Now, I really only have one question after seeing all of this. How the heck do we acquire all of these mounts, and when do we get to use them? Are they specific to a certain quest or biome, or is it a free-flowing system? I've still got a lot of questions. Honestly, this feels more like an MMO-style system than a true RPG system, just with how many we've actually seen within the game. Now, the final shots of the new trailer take us through some small villages, and it's really cool to see Eastern-inspired architecture blended with that dark quirkiness of a post-apocalyptic fantasy game, and I really hope that trend continues as we get to experience more of Biomutant. It's really great to get a snapshot of the game from a 30,000-foot view. This is the first time we've seen Biomutant in its entirety from a world perspective, and although we still don't know the intricacies of each of the biomes, how they all connect, how we get access to them, it is great to see a snapshot of all of them, or at least most of them, in one trailer. Now, there is still a lot of things we don't know about this game, but at least we can check off the world as an element that we're interested in. We've seen colorful scenes, we've seen a lot of travel and transportation, and ultimately, the world of Biomutant is looking fantastic. Honestly, I'm really in love with everything I'm seeing in this game. There's just so much to latch onto and to be excited about. The only catch is that we still don't know much about the systems that power the game. That's always my concern with a game like Biomutant that's tempting us with this grand adventure, but ahead of launch, we still don't know those all-important details. Now, I'm not saying they're essential, but it's definitely a big X factor when you consider Experiment 101, the developers are relatively new and don't have any major releases under their belt. I think now the marketing efforts are really going to start ramping up, and hopefully we'll learn more. Every major news outlet is pushing out this new trailer, and like I said, because we're still a month away, I think we have some time, and I think we're going to get a lot more information as we get closer to launch. As always, friends, it has been fantastic hanging out with you and talking about a new and upcoming game. So if you want to follow along with our adventures, the best way to do that is by hitting that like button and subscribing to Legacy Gaming. It's completely free for you, and it really does help us out a ton. If you're interested in a full-blown review of the game, keep an eye out for our Biomutant Worth Your Time video. We'll be playing the game early, and our goal is to get you that information just as soon as we can. Finally, if you like our content and are a fan of what we stand for here at Legacy Gaming, you can now help us out even more by becoming a member. For the cost of a cup of coffee, you're helping evolve the channel and build a better community. Check out that join button below to learn more. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.